And I see he started recording, but we still can't hear you, Gowtham.
There he is.
Can you guys hear me?
Yep. Yes.
Apologies. I've had some delays dropping off my child, so I just got home. So good morning, everybody. This meeting is recorded, being recorded. So today is the fourth Friday meeting of the OHDSI Phenotype Development Evaluation Workgroup. So welcome everybody. Today we have a packed agenda. I'm really excited to listen to Fabrizio talk about his new tool software called FIA. I was excited to hear about that software, the work that he has done, especially because it helps. It has a potential to solve one of the problems that we discussed a lot at the last Phenotype February in 2022. That is to build a core definition that's based on change in like a lab measurement value. So if a serum creatinine changes by a factor of 1.5, can we index on the date that the person's serum creatinine was 1.5 times the prior value? Our current OHDSI tools cannot do that, and FIA has a potential to solve that problem. So I was excited to hear about the work that he has done and invited him to present. So he's going to give a half an hour talk about FIA. This talk obviously deserves more time. He asked for 45 minutes, but unfortunately I had to cut it down to 30 minutes. But we can always go back and ask him to come back if we need more time. And the second topic, Jacob Zelko is going to talk to us for about 10 minutes about his experience using the OHDSI Phenotype Library structured input process, and he's going to share his thoughts on that topic. And then for the rest of the time, I would like to talk about the Phenotype February, and more importantly, complete the responsibility, which is to deliver onto the OHDSI steering group our plans for this year, our goals and objectives. So I'm unable to share my screen at this time, but on the Microsoft Teams channel for this work group general page, you will see a thread that I started that includes what is this work group and what we delivered last year. We discussed that at the last work group call. And then we talked about the goals and objectives. So I've tried to capture the collective thoughts of the work group based on discussions, and I formulated that into the post. Please welcome I welcome you to engage in that conversation in an asynchronous way, and we can also talk at the end of this call. So that's what I have. Again, because of the packed agenda and the delayed start, I'm going to skip introductions of any new comers in this call and go directly to Fabrizio. And it's all yours, Fabrizio. Are you there? Is he on the call?
I don't see him on the participants list. That could just be me, though.
I don't see him either.
Okay, so let's go to the next agenda topic. Jacob, if you're ready, do you want to give us a talk when I continue to set up, and we can use the time that we have on other topics?
Absolutely. Yeah, I can go for it. So, hey everyone, my name is Jacob Zelko. I'm a researcher over at Georgia Tech Research Institute. So today, as Gowtham mentioned, I'm just going to spend a small, little bit of time, about 10 minutes or so, just talking about some of my experiences so far with the excellent resources that this work group has put out around phenotype development, as well as just information about how to get started with, especially the submission process to the Phenotype Library. So, without further ado, I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen. I figure I did share a draft document of what I was thinking could be useful for Phenotype February last year. I mean, not last year, this upcoming year, for how maybe generic templates or generic phenotypes can be submitted to the forums. But I'll get into that in just a moment. But yeah, and then we could hopefully talk maybe some more about feedback or other thoughts people have. But yeah, so as I mentioned, I think all the resources that have gone into the Phenotype Library is excellent. So every single article talking about the cohort definition submission requirements and information on just everything that needs to go into that submission process. Just overall feedback from myself is I think it's excellent, and the reason why Gowtham was also asking me to speak on this subject, is right now I'm leading a sub-team from a network study that I'm leading focused on assessing health equity in delivery of mental health care resources. So right now, that team consists of myself, Dr. Dongyoung Lee, Dr. Miguel Angel Meyer, Dr. Thamir Al-Shamari, and Adam Black. So right now we're just going through the process, figuring out not only how to go more rigorously standardize this process of phenotype submission to the Phenotype Library, but also thinking about maybe the next generation of some of these cohort diagnostics questions. So I'm just going to go ahead, switching from these articles here, I'm just going to go ahead and show the generic template that I was referring to. So this generic template is in essence just a tool or resource that I can certainly upload to this OHDSI Workgroups file location storage area. And from there, we can maybe use this or build upon it for future Phenotype February submissions. The whole purpose of this is to make things more streamlined. So all the content that you are seeing here all comes from the submission process that has been enumerated within that website article listing that I was just showing. So in essence, someone should just be able to go through this, review or read through which parts that they need to fill out for their particular phenotype definition, and from there be able to actually meaningfully create a submission, hopefully of a high caliber that matches some of the great work that I've seen on the OHDSI forums. Because not only is this information a distillation of the articles that you've already put forth from this work group, it is also based around kind of my subjective or our team's subjective or perspective on some of the phenotype submissions that we've seen being particularly well documented and well written in the OHDSI forums. So yeah, I just wanted to quickly share that. So far, having these rigorous standards and guidelines have been extremely helpful. My team and I were already creating some basic definitions or generic definitions for a phenotype of depression. So we'll be submitting that, if not at the beginning of Phenotype February, at least sometime very, very near it or during the month of February. So yeah, so that was basically everything that I wanted to cover. I know when I was discussing this with Gowtham, Gowtham was quite excited to see that we can rigorize or more standardize these submission processes to make things easier, especially for perhaps newcomers to the phenotype development work group. So yeah, and I can, as soon as I'm done sharing my screen, I can share this link again in the chat, and I can also upload this to files. So if anyone has any feedback or any thoughts, yeah, I'd love to hear it, incorporate it into here, and maybe potentially this could be also an artifact that comes out of Phenotype February. So I'll stop, and we can have open discussion if there's anything we want to discuss, or we can move on to the next topic. So thank you for your time.
Anybody, any comments or questions to Jacob? Yes, I see a hand raised. Aza?
Yeah.
On the road. Jacob, this is great. I was wondering if we could, as you know, eventually the Phenotype February phenotypes or cohort definitions, once the collaborators work on something and reach a point that they feel is ready for a submission or for basically the last stage, which is peer review, do you think we can use the current document as the guideline of like a checklist for the submission, or could you use it to actually submit? Like, do you think it's ready to use it as not something that comes out of Phenotype February, but actually used in Phenotype February to help us organize those phenotypes that are ready for peer review?
Yeah, I actually think that's a fantastic idea. I didn't think of it in that way. So I think it can not only be used for, a helpful checklist for, the submitters, just to say, what part applies to them, because, based on the documentation, there's going to be some, components that will apply to the phenotype, some that won't. But then, as they submit this phenotype, they can also just submit maybe their checklist in the form of this document to say, we addressed these points, we didn't address this point because, our phenotype doesn't, apply to this particular area. So to your point, I think it would be really useful. So yeah, very happy to share it for those purposes.
So I have a proposal based on the discussion that Jacob and Asa just had. So as part of the Phenotype February planning, a decision was made to support 10 phenotypes as a core work for the entire month of February. Our goal is to get all those 10 to done. What is done? And that can be tracked by a checklist. So maybe this work that Jacob is shown could be converted to a checklist that a reviewer could use to see if the work is complete.
And maybe link to the material as well, because we have to figure out, I mean, everything has to be through the submission, which is basically the forum post, but I think it would be useful if we use this as a checklist and kind of it, because some material will need to be linked to a artifact, and we can use that as a source of organizing all the artifacts for one submission in one place that the collaborators who work on one phenotype can use to organize everything, and then the peer reviewer can use as the place to find all the artifacts that is needed for the revision.
No, I think that's great. As a next step, I'll go ahead and upload this document to our files repository. I did share it also in the chat, so if I'm unable to, just grab that link real quick. But yeah, I'll turn it back over to Gowtham. As a final note, I just want to say, thank you also to my collaborators, especially Dr. Dong-Young Lee, for collaborating with me on this effort. We're also in the process right now of, as best as possible, already trying to improve this as much as possible as we would just work through our phenotypes to figure out what are the pain points. But yeah, happy to have this be a useful resource for y'all. So I'll turn it back over to you, Gowtham.
So as part of the Phenotype February conversations, we have an opportunity to engage on this particular topic. Are folks interested in working with Jacob and others, including Aza and me, to convert this into a structured template that could be used by a reviewer to say things were met or are not applicable?
I'm happy to help there. A couple of things that I was kind of thinking about as Jacob was talking. One is that interesting body of work that Anna has put out about Keeper. These two things are quite adjacent. It'd be nice to kind of bring them into some kind of unison.
Yep.
Because there's some other things that as we look to kind of harden this process, like one of the things I kind of keep running into is that things like strengtheners. Like we could it is tempting to sometimes just restate all the things that happen in the real world as strengtheners, but we should somehow distill that down to being like like in the Bayesian sense, for instance, like there's probably some threshold where we would say like this is a real strengthener, whereas this abdominal pain might be seen in lots of different things. And so, like, do we consider that a strengthener or not? I don't know the answer there, but I do wonder if there's like a way to kind of better, to kind of further specify, what each of these things are, and maybe that can be part of that process too.
Is Anna on the call? Sometimes she's on these meetings. I can't see. Okay.
All right. Gowtham, sign me up too, Joel.
Oh, great, Joel. Okay. So Joel, Evan, Aza, me, Jacob, we're gonna, is that, Jacob, I am volunteering you without asking you.
I'm in. Send me in, Gowtham. I'm ready.
Okay. Anybody else? Coming once, going twice. Okay, gone. We now have a work group that is subgroup that is responsible for this task. And I will document
And
that.
Gowtham, that ties very well. I think if you're able now to share your screen,
Yeah.
we're gonna tie to Phenotype February, but that ties to the first debate topic we're proposing for the first week, which is actually the peer review process and what exactly is needed. Like, how can we structure that peer review process in a way that it's more objective than our current loose um, um, approach for it. So maybe that same group can participate or start the debate on what is a peer review process and what tools do we have to structure it, including which can be that checklist.
Yes, yes. So because Azza brought this up, and one more time, Fabricio, are you on the call? Okay. So just because Azza brought this up, this is the thread that has conversations related to Phenotype February. I made a post yesterday night regarding the plan for the Phenotype February. Please, I ask and I encourage you all to read through this post. I know this is a long post, but this was discussed in the last planning committee, planning subgroup meeting. One of the debate topics that has been brought forward is for the first week, we're going to talk about what is peer review, what is the value of peer review, what should be in peer review, and what should the peer reviewer do. And this is something that Evan and I have struggled with because we tried to experiment and gain experience doing a review and then a peer review. So the structured process, a checklist would definitely be helpful. And so I think, like as I said, this would be a good fit for that conversation.
Maybe Gautam, for people who are not familiar with where we are in the discussions and the forum, the post you put yesterday, let's just briefly summarize how we're thinking Phenotype February will go.
Okay. So yes. So we started out by talking about the experience of the 2022 Phenotype February. And in 2022, when some of the perspectives where there was a lot of content and it came too fast. And because it came too fast, it was hard to keep track. And there was also the issue that we could not get many things done, where we had a very lofty goal, but we couldn't get it done. And there was disagreements. We followed through with some of those conversations for the rest of 2022, but there were still a lot of things pending. So one of the main ideas behind Phenotype February for 2023 is to harden our process, to allow for us to go in more depth into some of the discussion issues that has surfaced up, and to see if the practices that have appeared are truly best practices. And that's basically the guiding theme of Phenotype February 2023. And so, as you all know, we have this idea called phenotype development and the phenotype evaluation. The entire process that starts from a clinical construct or a target, a clinical description, something that the clinician can articulate, all the way till a fully vetted, evaluated cohort definition logic. Is a lot of effort, and it is we have general agreement that not one person can do that, and it is not something you can do in a very quick amount of time. It takes a long time. It's a lot of effort. So what we did was we broke it down. We said we'll do 10 phenotypes, 4 of which will require less effort, 3 a little bit more, 2 significant, and then 1 a full end-to-end process. So that makes it 10, and we will stagger it. We will focus in depth into it. We'll follow the practices that we have evolved over the last year, and then but we most importantly will complete them. Now the completion is a good idea, I think, because we have phenotypes that are in varying stages of completion, but not complete. So Evan and I and Aza have attempted to go through all the OHDSI forum posts and prior work and identify 4 clinical ideas that are in an advanced stage. That is, somebody has developed the phenotype, have run it on one data source at least, made their output publicly available, wrote a commentary about what they saw based on their evaluation. But what is pending for it to mark it as complete is a peer review. Somebody independently has to look at it based on the information that was provided by the submitter and make a call of whether this is good or not. So that's the idea of 4 phenotypes that needs to be peer reviewed. So we're proposing 4 phenotypes, or we want to do 4 phenotypes for the first week. And then the next week, second week, we're thinking we'll tackle 3. These are phenotypes that have been developed, have been executed on at least one data source, and the results are available on a publicly available site, but it has not been critically evaluated by anybody, and definitely not the submitter, and it has not been peer reviewed. So we want to build on top of the first week's work where we add the component of evaluation. So the second week will involve evaluation and peer review. The third week will be more work. This is the process where we want to test out if we can execute the diagnostics on a developed phenotype. So given that we'll pick 2 phenotypes that already have a cohort definition, but it has not been executed in several data sources. So we'll ask for a network study for people who have OMOP CDM to run cohort diagnostics and maybe p-evaluator. P-evaluator if it's not BigQuery. Sorry, Evan. And see if we'll get the results out. We will then evaluate it, and then we'll do a peer review. And then the last one is an end-to-end process, where we will start with the clinical idea through a community voting process. We'll select a phenotype. We will align on the clinical idea. We will develop the phenotypes using Atlas or a probabilistic framework. We will evaluate it, and then we will do a peer review. So given that idea, what is pending right now is the selection of the clinical ideas and the assignment of the volunteers. But I have documented what I just said for week 1, week 2, week 3, and week 4 over here. So that's the general framework. In terms of the post structure, there are a given set of inputs. The inputs for week 1 are the target phenotype, its clinical description, prior literature, 1 or more cohort definitions, output of OHDSI tools like cohort diagnostics and Phe-evaluator, and a written summary and interpretation of the findings. What is the deliverables is a peer review with the comment of accept, modify, or reject. And we target 4. And this is the debate for the week. The debate for the week is, what is this peer review? What is the value of peer review? Why should we do, or what should be in the peer review? And who should do the peer review, and so on and so forth. And we can expand the scope, but the theme is peer review for the debate.
And Gowtham, just to comment here. So in week 1, week 1, we will be looking for volunteers, which will Patrick open the call on next Tuesday, where we will be actively asking for volunteers to be participant of week 1. And that task of a collaborator, once they sign their name, is review all that inputs, all this material, to decide what, like, if they accept the phenotype definition, they think it's a good implementation, or suggest changes, or say this is a horrible idea. Those phenotype definition do not represent this clinical idea you guys are targeting, and then write a post on it. So for the most part, though, that this review will technically require some clinical knowledge, because it's basically their judgment on what they see in cohort diagnostics, Phe-evaluator results, what's there in the literature review, because we're going to also provide what others have done and what gold standards are in there for people to go over that, for clinicians and people, informatician, and anybody who has enough background to say, to have an opinion to review this. And we already have, like, we're trying to collaborate with a group of clinicians from Paul Nagy group to participate in there, but of course anybody is invited. And the key there is that those ideas that those phenotypes that we're gonna discuss are limited to 4 that the community as a whole have already worked on in the past and developed a phenotype, and we have already ran it across network of data, and we have evaluation results for.
Yeah.
So this is the scope of week 1, and that's why the the debate there should be we're suggesting that the debate is all about the peer review process, because we're still struggling. What does it mean to have an opinion? So that's the idea of like debating. Is it even useful?
For
Evan?
full transparency, the candidate core definitions have not been chosen yet, just because we have not had the time to do it. We're still working on it. Anybody interested in helping out select the candidate core definitions are welcome, and please reach out to me, Evan or Aza. This is a shared document that you all have access to as members of this work group. This is the list that Evan and I and Aza have created. And this is essentially the candidates that we are choosing. So like neutropenia, week 2, transverse myelitis, week 1. So we are still debating this about pros and cons. Where did it come from? What type of content exists in it? And what is there, and things like that. So we are still in planning stage for it. So that's just sharing that information in full transparency. To identify the spreadsheet, all you have to do is go to the general track of the work group, go to files, and there is a folder called Phenotype February 2023, and there are all the communication content, including our slides, plus here's the candidate core definition document.
Evan?
Just two things. One was just to check in on the vision here. The 4 that are started that week, the idea isn't that these have to don't have to finish that week, right? They could finish by the end of February. Is that a fair comment?
We have, yeah. Go ahead, Gowtham.
Yeah. So the guiding principles of Phenotype February is we want to harden our process and make sure that we try this, go as deep as required, and help resolve some of the debates and the concerns that the community has on this topic. So we don't just want to do a shiny object. We want to do real good work, and whatever it takes to do the real good work is what we will do.
Okay.
If we can do it in one day, great. But but for real good work, we need the entire month, we'll do it.
And I'm just, because part of my thoughts are kind of key into that, like, especially if we're bringing newer people into this process and kind of clinicians that might not have the, experience with the OHDSI stack, I think they're going to need more time. And certainly, I guess the other point to that is that we can circle back, but I know that from talking to Paul about the clinicians that are going to be joining on, they're joining on in the context of a course, as you know, and they've already selected which phenotypes they would use. So we might want to take those 4 from within that set, because that's where we're definitely going to get some clinicians that'll kind of apply themselves to trying to work through this process. So just throwing it out there that that might be a good set from which to choose the first 4.
Okay, great. I'll follow up with you also, Evan. And please, anybody, this is an open conversation, so there's nothing being done in the secretive. So if you want to continue the conversation, please reach out after this meeting.
David?
Yeah,
David.
thank you. Just following on Evan's comment, I was wondering if it could make sense. I think the most ambitious one is the one that we want to complete and to implement the full process from development to evaluation. And if it could make sense to start with that one the first week of February, so maybe at least with the hype of the Phenotype February momentum, it has higher chances to be completed by the end of the month.
Yeah, that's a very good point, David. So this is something that was discussed, but we did not align completely on. So I'm gonna so before kickoff on January 31st, we need to align on this. So because this end-to-end process takes a lot of amount of time, it is reasonable, in my opinion, to start it early. It's also reasonable, in my opinion, to focus the energy of the community on the 4th week of February for that particular phenotype, but a subgroup could start on February 1st.
Yeah, so can I clarify this point? So the calendar, maybe Gowtham, you want to share the calendar. The calendar, just like the way we did it in 2022, the calendar is more reflecting the time that deliverables will be posted to the community so people can react and we can have a discussion on the community. That doesn't mean the work involved is starting or ending that day or that month, that particular week. So that's why we're actively now soliciting volunteers and try to organize the work so that that last week is dedicated for the full process for one phenotype that the community will discuss. But that doesn't mean the work will start. It can't start that week. Indeed, it has to start at the beginning of the month. That's why we like on Tuesday when Patrick opens it up, and we have people already like we solicited, but then more people hopefully join, and then the group, the people as they sign themselves will start working right away. Those dates are when the post is out or when there's some deliverable that will go out for the community to discuss and deliberate on. So it doesn't, it's actually like, it can't be that week we're starting from scratch, that last week of February to say, okay, here's the phenotype we agreed on. Can somebody do a literature review or something like that? It's the opposite. We have to create all this material ahead of time, working with the group who sign up for it. And it's not one person job. That's what people can sign up for different tasks. And then the group who ended up who together who could finish the task will start dividing the work and will start from the very first week. And the other idea is that every person who sign up will have like a partner from one of us who's very familiar with the stack, very familiar with the tools, very familiar with the process, who can help push forward. So I'm imagining that this will start from the very beginning. All 4 weeks work will start from the beginning.
Right. Thank you. That's a very, very clarifying. Maybe also in light of this, should we consider having a backup team to support in case of contingencies? People is engaging in doing some of the more sensitive phenotypes, the ones that we want to finish, etc. We may need to have people backing those up that maybe for whatever reason they need to drop or they are not able to deliver as promised. Some of us, I'm thinking some people from this working group could be supporting having extra resources in case of these contingencies.
I think that's aligned with Az's idea of the phenotype pal or a phenotype buddy.
Right, yeah.
That and it's expected. It's implicitly let's make it explicit. It is explicitly expected that you and your buddy are accountable for each other. And if one of you is not able to complete, then the other person should pick up and continue.
Okay.
So let's start here. Like, let's start actually with this, because this working group is the support for the whole work. The idea is get new collaborators to contribute, but we don't want it like last year where Patrick, myself, few people did the whole thing. That's useless.
Yeah.
The point is to have people get into collaborate, and by that we all learn what is good, what works, what doesn't work, how we can improve. But for that to happen, we need people who are somehow familiar with some tasks, either familiar with doing clinical revision or familiar with writing a clinical description or familiar with running tools or familiar with working with Atlas, creating a phenotype in Atlas or some or other tools to be there supporting, to be the pal. So like from this working group is what we now need participant to say, I can definitely help somebody create a phenotype in Atlas. Like I can be the consult, or like the pal for this particular task. And Gowtham, you can go and go back to the post because the tasks are clear. Maybe we can, maybe the deliverable for the very last week include the entire list of tasks. And maybe we can now raise your hand if you can like be the pal for that task.
Oh, that's a good idea. So do we have today, right now we have 18 people in the meeting. Would you be interested in volunteering as a pal for any of these tasks? This is you. So there will be somebody that will be assigned as assigned, or there'll be another person volunteering also with you. Which one do we want to talk about? So do we want to go one from the top to bottom?
No, I think if you go to week 4, because that's the entire process.
Yes. Okay. So for the week 4, given a target clinical idea and some literature review on that topic, we now have the responsibility of building one or more cohort definitions, executing a set of OHDSI tools on those, writing an evaluation summary, and then working with a peer reviewer who will independently review that work. So we're looking for people who are interested in this idea. We have still not picked the target clinical idea, but once you are volunteered, you will have a say, obviously, in that choice. If you are interested in this activity and would like to volunteer, please raise your hands.
And I'm thinking, like, who can support a new collaborator author a clinical description? Like, this is the first task, right?
Yes.
Can anybody? So I see Joel. I see Evan.
See Christian.
Christian, perfect. And that would be only week 4. So week 4 is the only week that we're actually working on describing the description, because the clinical description is an input for all, is already done for the week 1, 2, 3.
David.
Okay.
Be a little worried about executing cohort diagnostics, evaluator, all that stuff. So I presume we might be kind of at least having a bit of a team supporting this one.
Yes.
Yes, the technical component we can get.
So can you read out the names? So I saw Christian, Evan.
Sure.
I mean, the problem with cohort diagnostics and evaluator is that it may end up being in different databases, right? And
If you have databases.
exactly, for those who can run it in some databases, not all of us will be running in the same databases.
So let's just, there's a collaborator who will be, so we're thinking like running cohort diagnostic. That will be you don't have to be a data owner, but if you don't have data, then you have never done cohort diagnostic, so you can't help in helping somebody run cohort diagnostic or be evaluated. Yes.
Well, the question is also if instead of having the same people do that step, there is actually a service. So somebody says, "Yep, give me." I can't help you with lengthy discussions about the clinical description, but if you give me a cohort, I run it. Okay.
Yes.
So if we could do that, of the people who have some resources available to them, that would be good, because then that problem goes away.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to reach out to some people that have successfully done it in the past and see if they are interested. And if you know of anybody, or if you have access to, you can try to speak up now. Is anybody in this work group right now having access to personal level data on OMAP CDM and willing to or interested to support the week 4 activity? Christian.
I do. I have one database now. One. I used to be the richest guy in town, right? But I no longer am.
We will make you the richest. We are committed to that. And then we'll bring you down. Like, what's his name? I forget, the Tesla guy. And then we'll bring you up again.
Elon. Yeah.
Since we're talking about week 4, so week 4 is the most intense, and there's many ideas floating around week 4, including maybe working on a oncology related phenotype, which would allow us maybe to try some more innovation or more tools or more resources. For example, if we have a data partner, and I'm now looking at Asia. Is Asia on the call? If we have a data partner who has data that has registry linkage, could we add to our evaluation a step that looks at agreement with registry if we have a data source that has both? I'm not talking about full gold standard, evaluation, but at least looking at, can we work on a phenotype definition and then have that one of the data sources have a registry data that we can look how much of agreement we get from another data source. Like,
Hey, hold on. I think there's a confusion here. I see a message. Fabricio, could you say what happened?
Well, I'm trying to understand. I used the link on odyssey.org, which is also the link that I had posted on the forum. And I was waiting for you to show up, and there were 4 other people in the meeting as well. And I thought something had happened to you, Gowtham. And then I just started presenting at 9:05.
oh my goodness.
And I'm wondering how many links to how many meetings at the same time there are.
Oh,
And where am I supposed to get the correct one, if not on the website?
Yeah, this the Banes of Odyssey Microsoft Teams. This used to be a significant problem. So like this is the Odyssey, there's a very quick orientation. So this is the Odyssey Microsoft Teams. This is our core workflow engine. Here is if you go to all the teams that you have access to, one of the teams is the Workgroup Phenotype Development Evaluation. It has a general channel. In that general channel is a thread, and that thread will give you the meetings, and that's how you're supposed to join or engage. That's the framework. But what happens is people don't have access to the Microsoft Teams environment. Then they ask for Outlook invites, and the Outlook invites create shadows, and that shadows does not die. Because Microsoft Teams and Microsoft Outlook does not talk to each other, although it's same Exchange server or whatever. So because of that, this problem keeps arising.
Well, I understand about the teams, and that's how I found the link to this meeting. But I didn't know that the link on the website would be wrong, But even though it is wrong, it works, and there are people in the meeting. Anyway, very unfortunate, but I don't mean to hijack the session.
So
thanks for
apologies
explaining.
for the confusion for you. We'll set up a follow-up meeting if that's okay with you. I'm sorry, it's very disappointing.
We need to record this to Allison. So
you didn't happen to record your session, did you, Fabrizio?
No. I was just waiting for Gowtham, and then I decided to begin at 9:05 because I thought something had happened to him.
Apologies.
But that's a critical point. Yeah. So the link on the forum is different. That's we need to talk to Craig and Allison.
And the thing is, Fabrizio, is we really want to see what you got because it's important.
Yeah, I gave a passionate pitch for yours in the beginning.
Yeah.
And it was like, very easy.
He had half of us crying here.
I tried messaging you on Teams, but I thought something had happened. But anyway, it's unfortunate, but it's okay.
Okay, apologies. So we'll set up a follow-up with you. I'll reach out to you. Okay. All right. As a baby. Okay.
I'm trying to see if we can get a partner. I'm not talking about collaborators, because to work or to take tasks. I'm talking about collaborators who can help people who sign up for tasks.
Yeah, so if you are an experienced Odyssey collaborator who has gone through the process of some phenotype development before, either as part of this work group or some other ways, if you're familiar with Odyssey tools like Cohort Diagnostics, Atlas, if you have run Cohort Diagnostics or have instantiated a cohort in Atlas and would like to help somebody else, this is your chance. This is your chance to be a buddy. If somebody is new and they want some help, you can step up and provide some insights. This is the opportunity to share and give back to the community. So I'm just collecting names for that.
Yeah, and not only so, because people are so focused on running cohort diagnostics. Not only that, if you know how to build concept set, we're talking about helping people do the entire work, which includes searching the vocabulary, finding concept set, looking at Phoebe, any aspect of cohort development or evaluation. I know a lot of us do this on a daily basis. So we need more than just Gowtham and I or Joel to help newcomers or people who are not familiar at all to help.
Nate, is that hand raised for being a volunteer?
Yes, it is.
Awesome. And Christian, I know you have volunteered, right?
Yeah.
But ain't that for what we are volunteering in the first row?
First say yes and then ask, David.
Say yes. Say what you just did.
I'll tell you that once we get the full list of volunteers who actually want to take tasks, we can pair people who we know are familiar with certain aspect of the process with the collaborators. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Kuman, are you raising your hand to volunteer or do you have a comment?
Oh, volunteers. Volunteers, fine.
Ryan, Kenny, comment or volunteer?
Both. So I focus mainly in my work on the concept development piece or concept set development piece in cohort building, so I can help with that.
Excellent. Okay. Asa, do we want to talk about the debates?
Yes.
Yes, I think that's an important conversation.
First, we have like 2 minutes. Is everybody clear about like the plan that Gowtham went through, I don't know, 20 minutes ago? And is there any feedback that you want to provide before because that Gowtham wrote the announcement, but the full plan will be described on the Tuesday call. So do you guys think the plan is feasible? Do you think it's clear or do you think it's confusing?
Anything?
I think it's going to be. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry. No, for me, the plan as it is explained, it's clear for those who want to participate as developers of a phenotype. In today's call, I honestly have not that clear what the volunteers and the PALS task is going to be and the involvement that it will require, because it's, I mean, for certain aspects, it might be easier than for others. And I think we need to clarify maybe a little bit better with those who volunteer, what do we have to do specifically? Because otherwise it might be a bit confusing for us volunteers and for those who expect something from us.
Yes. Yes, and that's the detail that needs to be still ironed out.
Yeah. My comment is that as you're so we have to, I think we should sort of consciously make a choice on whether the phenotypes that we select to work on with this are going to be straight. I mean, we've seen straightforward phenotypes and we've seen complex phenotypes. Yeah. We have 4 weeks to do this. The question is, do we want to go down rabbit holes of complex phenotypes, or do we want to keep things sort of straightforward?
Yeah, that's a good that's a good comment, Joel, mainly because the Phenotype February, as outlined, has 2 major tracks. One is we are going to get 10 phenotypes to done, but the second track is the debates. And that's where topics like the complex and the simple phenotype, or even Christian and I have had several conversations about flavors of phenotypes. All of those are the topics of interest that needs to be addressed part of Phenotype February. And that's exactly right. So like if the idea of a simple and a complex phenotype could be one of those debates too.
Right. But I'm just saying, if we want to get 10 phenotypes to done in 4 weeks, let's not go crazy with what was, some of the, it was acute renal failure, using measurements and all kinds of things in there that are going to be a high debate, or else we can select those, but we may get less than 10. Yep. Maybe that's the best one to work on, because it gets a lot of people thinking about it. But I'm just throwing that out there as
very good point, Joel.
Good point. Is more better because then the bigger library, or should we actually go deep and really figure this out well on a few? That's really the question.
So we spoke about this little bit before you joined, Christian, and I know you couldn't join the first half.
Yeah.
This meeting is recorded, and I'll brief you later on. The general idea here is hardening our process and going deeper. Less is more, but we need to go deeper into it.
But we also want completion.
Yes.
We also,
Do both.
I mean, that is the balance. We need to get things to, because if we stop and we don't accomplish anything. We don't accomplish hardening the process, and we don't accomplish a phenotype. So
Yeah.
Well, you know, what's important, the destination or the journey?
both.
Yeah.
But to be more specific, for week 1, the 4 phenotypes are kind of pre-chosen based on the clinical interest of the group and the ones that we have all the material ready for. So there's no much margin. It's week 2 and week 3. So it's really 3 phenotypes that are really done from scratch. So the question is, so I'm posing for everybody, does anybody have a proposal that we're gonna open for the community to vote on? Does any of you have a suggestion for either an existing phenotype definition, like an algorithm that they have been using but have no idea what's its performance across a network of data, and would really like the community attention? They think it's a good, useful example and a good phenotype to have in our library, that they think we can go through the evaluation and peer review and discuss it in depth. So we have two spots there. Anybody have a proposal for a clinical idea and an algorithm that they can suggest that we can implement in our tools and then go through the process for? And then, even more importantly, does anybody have a strong opinion or a suggestion for a clinical idea that they think is a good thing to phenotype from scratch? And I'm here asking about like recruiting for ideas. There's something that you think is a good something for the community to vote on. And you can use the chat and just write your ideas, or you can raise your hand.
And just a reminder, this is the spreadsheet that we are tracking all the candidates right now. So if your work is not in this list, it will not make it. So this is the opportunity to bring it up.
No, you type it now, right, Gowtham?
If there is one, I want to put it in.
Kenny. Kenny has her hands up, or that was an old hand?
Oh, sorry, wrong hand.
Okay.
An old hand.
Existing. So
there's 4 minutes left. And I just quickly want to bring that the last topic of the conversation. I know this is not done, but we only have 1 hour. So there is another deliverable for this work group that needs to be done today. This is our 2023 planning. And this was already discussed in the last call, which is the purpose of the work group, and then the work group's past accomplishments. This is the ask that needs to be sent out. This was not something that we have completely aligned on. I've tried to capture the conversations that we had about this into these 3 objectives and then key results. So objective number 1 for 2023, I propose the objective be framed as follows: harden phenotype development evaluation framework. And then the key results for those are: enable the community to complete 10 phenotypes via current phenotype development evaluation process. And I know the current phenotype development and evaluation process is ambiguous. That's what we're trying to solve by saying harden. Enable the community to complete 10 phenotypes via current phenotype development evaluation process using activities like Phenotype Phebruary. So that's the workgroup objective key results for Q1 2023. Through scientific debate, address at least 4 topics of the community interest and drive community consensus. Now, each one of us has a preconceived idea, but let's debate about it, but let's drive community consensus in some way. And then once we agree on, let's stick to it. That's Quarter 2. This could end up in a scientific paper by itself. We talked about this. Clarify terminologies and scientific definitions and deliver a document that organizes such ideas. Quarter 2, 2023. this is something that we talked also. Integrate probabilistic phenotyping into the OHDSI Phenotype Library. And I couldn't convert this into a measurable objective yet, but I would say at least one probabilistic phenotype into the OHDSI Phenotype Library by Q3 2023. So those were the key results that I was going to I collected and organized. Any thoughts? Anybody has outright objections to this? Now, the purpose of this obviously is to drive the community effort in a cohesive manner. So once I would like people to name themselves as interested in these, and you will get the resources of the community to drive these forward. Those like these two, the Phenotype February, including this terminologies and scientific definitions. Phenotype February will help us drive those. For the there was one comment, Azza, that we missed in the conversation. So we try to see if probabilistic phenotyping is something that could get focus on the 4th week of Phenotype February. We talked about it, and Juan wanted to bring some proposals forward for that. So
yes,
let's.
I was hoping to kind of get more than one bird in one stone. So I was hoping that we pick something for week 4 that we could actually do a probabilistic model for, like probabilistic model phenotyping for, and also I was thinking that Juan can help us in week 4 and have a component of probabilistic model for a new phenotype in there.
So just going down the list here, and improve this objective number 2, improve collaboration by enabling the community-wide participation on phenotype development evaluation. So we're enabling it. So in Phenotype February, have 10 phenotypes completed and published in the OHDSI Phenotype Library as peer-reviewed core definitions. The timeline of Q1 2023. This was the second objective. People brought up, we want more clinically trained people to be doing phenotypes or contributing to the science of phenotyping. And so promote clinically trained scientists by having at least 5 new clinician collaborators actively engaged in Phenotype February. And some of the discussions, even Evan proposed an idea with Paul Nagy on this topic. So I think this is a tangible and something we can achieve. Promote the usage of the OHDSI Phenotype Library as objective number 3. Complete peer reviews of 10 plus 10, so 10 via Phenotype February, and 10 additional phenotypes added to the OHDSI Phenotype Library by Q4 2023. I think this is easily achievable, but it also depends upon the success of what is a submission and acceptance criteria. Formalize the submission process. Jacob Zelko presented today about his experience, and we have a subgroup that's going to help formalize this further. And perform at least 2 communication sessions on the OHDSI Phenotype Library. This is not a propaganda, Christian. Execute at least 2 OHDSI studies that use the core definitions in the OHDSI Phenotype Library to generate a characterization evidence. So I think I was going to propose this. This was not discussed, but I think we did talk about, let's use this, make this OHDSI Phenotype Library useful. So by saying that we can use the OHDSI Phenotype Library cohort definitions to conduct studies, I think would make it more tangible. And then write a scientific paper on the OHDSI Phenotype Library itself. Is something. So these were the objectives and key results that I was going to propose. We are end of time. Any objections to this or any last minute discussions? I see a hand raise. Who is that? No. Anything to talk about this topic? Objective key results. And I'm happy to, because of the time, happy to sit back 15 more minutes if anybody's interested.
Gowtham, you kind of blocked it. You're not sharing your screen anymore. Oh. You have less.
Yeah, okay.
It is a lot of objectives and very ambitious.
Yeah.
So we're merging the 2021-22 Phenotype February paper with the 2023 one then?
the 20.
We basically still we still need enough material to have a peer review publication.
Do you think we don't have to enough? Because I mean, I saw a paper from a Odyssey Latin American group that published a paper on Phenotype February.
Yeah, I saw that.
So, I think there's enough, but I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I don't, I mean, I'm good either way. I just wanted to have it clear.
Maybe our mentor is super high standard. I keep saying not yet, but yeah.
That's good. I honestly don't know.
I mean, in terms of if Odyssey paper on the phenotype development and evaluation or the Phenotype Library, what is missing, we discussed this in different groups, but what is missing, if you want a really good paper, is an empirical experiment that you show that when you go through this process, you truly get better phenotype. And that needs to be showed empirically with some objective measure that is not part of the way we evaluate, right? You can't show cohort diagnostics. It's that cohort diagnostics is the tool itself to improve. So you can't say, you have to show something that somehow show that if you take, say, a phenotype from a literature as is, or you go through and go through a process which include all these different tools, all these different steps, you actually end up with a more trustable phenotype, given the clinical idea, given a use. So this is where we're struggling with. We still don't have an objective diagnostic that you can say, yeah, so.
But we do have, a sort of like a 10 simple rules type of paper, though. Because, my concern is that, Odyssey's falling behind on this. And, because there's other groups, the UK group, the Caliber group, and other of the emerged groups that they already have papers, vision papers, and, outline papers on how to phenotype. So I think that, the more we kicking it down the line, the least relevant it's going to be.
Mm-hmm. How would you reword this goals and objectives to reflect that? So first of all, I'm agreeing with you, Johan. We have to prioritize the scientific work rather than just discussing on the Odyssey forums and wasting energy there, or something else. So how would we do that?
No, that is definitely a good question, and I have at this moment, I have no clear idea either. So, I mean, but this is posted on the team, so I mean, I'll go and take a look at it, and I can email you, offline, what I think, how we can shape it, and then we can bring it back to the group.
But it's a really good point. Like, we review these papers that have these algorithms published, and I know we've discussed this before, but honestly, the stuff we're putting out there, I think, is better. It's just that the final product isn't polished, because it's on a forum. We just haven't kind of, and that's not to say, 90% of the work is probably in that 10% of bringing it to a polished product. So, that's not to say that is a, it's a big consideration, but I'm struck by that as well, that we actually are doing really good phenotyping work that is good, but not a small task to get it out there.
Okay, Gowtham, I would suggest if we have enough people who really want to work on a scientific paper and push it forward, I think we can have just one objective of one clear objective, that we would have a publication on Odyssey approach process / tools for phenotype development and evaluation, and we can put it all in one story. And that would be one objective that we all can just work and just push forward.
Yeah.
Similar to the Caliber paper, similar to Emerge paper, which is like more of a high level best practices. We can put like all the thoughts in one scientific write up.
Yeah, I agree with you. If you notice my forum post, I am worried and anxious to use the word best practices in our communication. And I just say good practices, or I say or a pattern. And the reason is we have not, if to call it a best practice, we have to I think you should at least get it in some scientific paper format. And if it's in a peer-reviewed journal, it says step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, and these steps have been followed, and when you follow it, there is an empirical difference as evidenced by this experiment. That's best practice. That establishes it. We don't have that.
But I think that, trying to achieve the ideal best practices will never converge as a community.
Yeah.
And we had that experience with the first Phenotype Library, right? We spent a year and a half arguing about the best steps to do it, and we still didn't get it right.
Yeah.
So, so like you said, yeah, it's okay saying, as good as we can OHDSI practices or something like that, but not try to strive to that, best practices goal, because I don't think we won't agree between each other, and we won't get there, in n amount of years, I think.
Yeah.
And then maybe if we do it that way, we will have to have an applied examples, which would be something we can borrow from Phenotype February 22 and 23 or 23.
Right.
So this way we can just formulate, put that work under a bigger umbrella.
Yeah.
So I think if the work group, the subgroup are interested, Juan, Evan, me, Aza, anybody else who's interested in the scientific work, we can help during the debate. We can surface up the conversations and then try to distill that a little bit further, like the highlighted sub bullets here.
Let's finish Phenotype February and then work on an objective of the paper that we start with the steps of the paper, with the outline, figure out the experiment, figure out the empirical examples. And that would be our quarter 2, quarter 3, and use this time to just collaborate on that. But we need to finish Phenotype February first.
Yes. Okay. Anything else before I close the meeting?
We'll see everybody on Tuesday's call, and we'll kick this off.
Thank you, everybody. Really looking forward to collaborating with you all as part of Phenotype February.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.